breakaway, but the monument sign, like the big one that
Right,
would go
that
on
would-
roundabout, you know, to me, it doesn't make sense for that to have
A
the same type of breakaway, but maybe it's required under WashDOT, we're not sure.
Okay, no, you wouldn't expect the
You wouldn't,
monument
none
sign.
of the monuments, but
Are we ready?
The trailblazing ones.
trailblazing ones. So we're just waiting to hear back from the state to see, you know, what modifications to the spec, and then we'll decide at that point, do we make it just state highway specific?
Well, are you ready? Okay, we'll go ahead and start the economic development meeting, and it is 9:55. And we will let Nick and Mark continue with the wayfinding discussion.
So, yeah, essentially, we were just asked for an update on the
Right.
wayfinding signs. The plans are out for review at WashDOT. We expected them on Friday. They have not come in yet. But we should have them soon, and then Ambrosini can make the final changes to the specification, and we'll get the final specs back.
Yep.
And then they'll be bid ready, so we're real close.
Okay, because it's been almost a year. It's been a year.
Well, the state was supposed to, they were supposed to
Yeah,
get it
in
like
April.
a month and 2 months ago, they were supposed to get us something, so I guess they're busy. Thank you.
And then Brandy, we just, the agenda basically is, we just asked for updates on what was still outstanding and the Foot Ferry marketing plan.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that, well, so we, what do you call it? Partnered with Explore Port Orchard, and they are going to print the brochures and put them on the state ferry for the foot ferry services for the summer. So, and I was out last week, so I need to touch bases with Chris Stansberry.
I found
Okay.
our Foot Ferry rack cards in the Seattle Ferry Terminal.
Okay, so they're out.
On
Okay.
the Bremerton Seattle
Okay.
Route.
So we were gonna be part of the state certified to get brochures on the ferry. So the first 2 months, I think it was supposed to be July and August, we will have brochures listing the Foot Ferry schedule. And then September and October, we purchased 6 months, and then the last 4 months will be a combination of the 125th anniversary promoting, and then also the Chimes and Lights Festival promoting that goes on to the Foot Ferry. So you can pull a rack and it'll have the list of festivals. So, and we'll have Explore Port Orchard update the brochures and get them to the certified for the state. So they're managing all of that for the city. So yeah.
So that
So
sounds like
that's
it's
what I know.
I have something.
And then we did social media outreach right before the 4th of July. We put it on the Facebook, we sent press release. That's pretty much to the extent of what we've done for the Foot Ferry marketing plan. Oh, and we will be, it's on my list this week to purchase the A-board, the white A-board frames. So I just have to figure out what's gonna be on the boards itself, if we just want to say, Foot Ferry's open, that type of thing. And I think we were going to purchase 2, so that way it could be brought out, and that's what I got to confirm, if the location was going to be on the Port Orchard side and the Bremerton. So we need 2, because I thought Port of Bremerton was going to put them out and take them in at night, but I didn't know if that was only on the Port Orchard side or the Bremerton side as well.
I made the request from the Port of Bremerton, and I specifically asked for the Bremerton side.
Okay. So I
I think
will.
Could we use 2 on the Bremerton side? Maybe 1 upstairs in the ferry?
Well,
They
I
don't
don't know
normally go
who's gonna put
upstairs.
it
Oh,
in
Yeah,
and out.
it's usually
because
right outside the terminal on the ground level.
So
But
I'll
this
follow
will
up with the
be-
port.
This will be more, not by the terminal, I thought, but more by the port offices. Because what you want is people to know where the Foot Ferry is. And they're not, that's why on the Port Orchard side, it's pretty visible.
Right.
But on the
it's very-
Bremerton side, it's not. And so,
Well, I was thinking
One-
2, 1 down by the port and then 1 closer to the big stairway
walkway,
coming down.
yeah.
you have to be careful as to, again, if you want to make those arrangements. I specifically talked to the port, and the port was going to do it on their property, and I don't know where the property lines are.
I don't either.
So
So
I'll
they
look
had
into
just
that.
said, they said they'd be glad to do that, that they take in and out a couple other signs on that side. They'd be glad to do that.
So, yeah.
They're pretty helpful, but so
Yeah.
is the staff for the foot ferry.
Yeah.
Um,
Rick was
when
pretty,
they
yeah,
close
he
the-
says if we had an
yeah.
A-board sign that he would bring it in and out and
Whenever
that
they
good
close
stuff,
the
so.
gates, they sometimes
yeah.
put one outside the gates, and then they take it in themselves. But there may be one at the gate and one you're thinking further down by the, I don't know where the port.
The port office is right
By
at the foot of the steps,
The fountains, yeah.
the fountain
Fountain
steps.
steps.
And
There
that's
might
where
be
you're
two
gonna,
then. Yeah.
but if we have money to buy 2 A-boards, I think that's.
Yeah, I think we do. So I'll get those worked on this week. And then I do have an update on the public event toolkit.
Okay.
So I was gonna I looked at the RFP and the RFP said that they need to come here for a presentation. So I tried to line up a presentation for Sound Media to come in and kind of explain what her thoughts are, because I thought, well, either way, whether you meant it because there was multiple proposals and you wanted to hear which one was the best, but they were not able to come. They have a standing meeting today, so they weren't able to come, but they are interested in coming and meeting with the ED committee. If you guys are interested for a presentation. However, we're working on the contract right now. So there's some things that we have to clarify before we move forward with the contract. And if one condition can't be met, then it looks like that we might not be able to go with this person and we'll have to go through. So one of the conditions is that they're requesting that 50% of the funds be given to them upfront prior to any of the work. And it's my understanding, based on an RCW, is that the city can't provide funds in advance. Work has to be performed and then they have to invoice us. So if it's a deal breaker with Sound Media that we can't do that,
Why do they
then
need it up front?
because that's the state rule. I don't know.
Wait, they're saying the state rules that they get 50%?
Our city attorney is saying that
Yeah.
there's a state RCW out there that
I
says.
know, but why do they need 50% up front? before
That's-
they
Yeah,
do
I don't
anything?
know. I don't know.
It's not uncommon.
Yeah.
It's not
With the state?
uncommon at all.
Public
We're not
agency.
talking about the state, we're
No.
talking
With
about
any
the
public
contract.
government agency, though?
We're not talking about a government agency, we're talking
Sound
about
Media,
a
a private
private
entity.
contract.
No, I understand that, but when they work with a government agency, they.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying
It
is.
just may be in their standard contract and they don't realize maybe this is the first local government contract that they've
Can
had.
you put
I
it
don't
in
know.
escrow? I'd be comfortable putting it in escrow, so they have 50% of it upfront in escrow, but I don't see why they should get 50% before they do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. And she was out the beginning of the week. I was out the end of the last week, so she didn't return my call, so
I
I'll
mean,
call
we're
her
gonna pay
today.
them if we sign the contract. They don't have to worry about us not paying them, so.
Yeah, I
think
don't
that-
know. That was just something that under legal review that we
They
had to
need to
address
waive that.
prior to moving forward. So I thought rather than stall the process, if I can have them come in and do a presentation, that type of thing. But, yeah, so once I find that out, are you guys interested in bringing forth a presentation before the contract gets approved? I know you guys are out in
Next month.
so if there's an allied agenda, I don't know, or we just bring forth the contract. I feel hesitant to bring a contract forward to the full council when there hasn't been any discussion on it. And if you guys are comfortable as the committee to bring forward and support the discussions that may happen because of a contract that they didn't know anything about, then I can move it forward. But,
Do we want a special meeting of these people?
Well, we need to meet with these people anyway to review exactly what we want done. If there's an RCW that we can't give them 50% upfront, as a business person, it's very common in the industries I was in that vendors would want 50% upfront. That's not uncommon at all. You would pay that upfront, they would do their work, they've got expenses, and that's a very common practice. So I can understand why they have that in their contract. They don't want to do the work and not get reimbursed for it. They, on the other hand, need to understand that it's a government contract, they are going to get paid.
and I
But
think.
if we can't get by that, there isn't any reason to meet
Right.
with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if in my conversations with her when this first came through, they were very excited about the project. So I don't see any problems with that, but I just want to kind of give the committees a heads up just in case. But if everything moves forward and they can meet the terms of the condition of the city, are you interested in seeing a presentation before we go through the contract? And if so, it would obviously be a special meeting to accommodate their schedule, and that you guys would come in and listen to it. Or I can invite them to the Tuesday meeting,
Work study or council meeting?
well, work study session's gonna be pretty full, and I think the last business meeting in July is gonna be full, but if that's where you guys want it, otherwise it's gonna be 1st of August at a regular meeting, or August as a work study session, or the committee meets separately.
This entire process has taken
A long time.
a long time. And I don't know that the rest of the council has a lot of ownership in it. But if we would like to meet with them, when would council members be together, at least the ED meeting, if we could set something up, perhaps before our work study session, or before a council meeting, that would allow us to finish up this piece of it, you know, say at 5:30 or 6 or whatever, before the work study session.
That's a way to do it.
That's
Another
good.
way would be
Yeah.
Telephone,
Yeah.
special
That's good.
telephone.
And
just-
yeah,
I
that would
think
be the other thing too.
Yeah.
We could do a telephone conversation, you know.
We could, I would even, I just assumed they were gonna have visuals.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know they gave us a pamphlet, but those came in later after when we presented the proposal. So I do have those to hand out. But yeah, I'm not sure if they'll have a visual or not. If they don't, and we're just doing conversations, then do you guys want to do a teleconference?
That's fine too.
Okay. And it's just the ED Tourism Committee.
Right.
Okay.
Where are they based? Are they based in Bremerton, Paulsville?
I think it's like Bellevue or Everett or Everett.
Everett? Isn't this the same as the Independent?
Mhm.
Based in
It's the
Everett.
same.
So they're coming
parent
out from
company.
Everett?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
See, they have 64 newspapers.
Yeah.
They go clear up into Canada, so they have,
How does a Canadian company, is
I
that
believe
only
it is, I believe it was, I don't know if it still is.
And the reason why, another reason why for, it's a presentation too, is she's provided along with her contract, they've also provided a 2016 scope of work recommendation. So she's presenting it as, this is what we can do for you this year, moving forward in phases, you know, this is what's gonna get you started, this is what you should do the next step, third step, blah, 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 blah. So,
That's neat,
Yeah.
you know, and that'll give us all something to think about, you know.
But that's what I would recommend, rather than, because we're not meeting in August, I don't want to postpone until September 1st. Then the other thing on the agenda was the street use permits, is that what we talked about?
Yeah, I
before?
think I had put it on both agendas, we're not sure which one to take it to, and we're gonna take it off the other.
So
Covered.
that's cool.
Guess we didn't need a break after all.
Well, I just wanted, again, rather than, we didn't really want economic development to be, miss 2 months of meetings.
yeah.
And we just wanted to make sure everything that we had working on was moving forward.
And the public event ordinance, that will be brought in, September. So
Okay.
that should be, hopefully I can get some of these projects done and refocus on that one, so.
And another question I have, it's not really economic, but it's LTAC, and I know that the council approved the mayor's appointments for the LTAC committee. Have we done any work on that contract yet? Because that contract's gonna need to be established before we ask anyone to, apply. Yeah, the
Okay.
applications, because the contract that was presented this last year, many of the, it would influence the applications from the nonprofits, so.
No, but we can certainly meet and talk about the contract.
Yeah,
We haven't done that, but we could do that.
yeah, because you can't ask for the,
That's probably the number one thing.
Yeah.
Because you can't go forward with
Yeah.
the rest of your process until you work that out, what you're gonna do with that.
And I think the committee's gonna be meeting either the end of July or first part of August. What we're waiting on right now is the projected dollar, so we can't meet unless we know, I mean, the
We
committee
could-
can meet
yeah.
beforehand to do some, clean house stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as going out for proposals and that type of thing, it usually doesn't happen until later, end of August, just because we
Yeah.
don't get our numbers until first
Okay,
part
I'll
of
call you,
August.
Brandy. We should schedule a meeting just to talk about the contract. And we don't need to know the actual funds.
yeah,
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
And so the contract part of it, yeah, I guess we can, I'm just thinking out loud here, that we could have the LTAC committee discuss the contract part of it, but I'm not sure that it's their role. I think the city has to determine, and maybe it's because they're part of a committee, at some point, the city's gonna have to determine what is the standard contract for lodging professional services. The city as a whole has to determine, this is what we wanna have our contract with. The committee can have buy-in and input, and maybe that's what we're doing, is saying, hey, this was last year's proposal based on our legal counsel's review.
Right.
Does the committee agree? And if they do, they can provide a recommendation to the council to say, hey, based on X, Y, Z, this is a committee's recommendation that should be in a standard lodging tax agreement. However, it should be ultimately the council's decision as
And
to.
it will be.
Okay,
Yeah, it
okay.
will
but
be.
the other piece of that
Mhm.
is that particular contract that was presented last year
Mhm.
had one section in there that said that the contract had been negotiated. And it seems to me if you're going to negotiate, you
Yeah,
have
there's
to
give
have
and
both
take.
parties
Yeah.
involved. And there were many, many issues with that contract, and I think it's a misunderstanding. In my opinion, these nonprofits that ask for LTAC monies are not doing a professional service.
Mm.
The contract that was submitted last year would have been fine for Visit Kitsap, and it would be fine for this Sound Publishing that's doing that piece. But it was inappropriate. It had nothing to do with the way the nonprofits work. The contract that was presented was basically for a company that was doing marketing for the city.
Mm.
That's not how these LTAC dollars are used. These LTAC dollars are used by nonprofits to put on events and to promote the events they put on. That contract had in it that any graphic work, any graphic design work became the property of the city. Now that's not going to work,
Yeah.
you know.
And this is the kind of feedback that I'm hoping the committee will say,
Yeah.
like, this is fine, this won't work, this won't work. But I think
And
that
you were-
feedback
and they were
is
asking,
what we need.
and the contract was asking for automobile insurance policies and things like that. These nonprofits are not representing the city when the float goes to Enumclaw. The city's not liable for that.
Well, according to our insurer, they are, so, but, that's just, yeah, we'll have to work that out, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
let's just say, and this is like, if they travel, say someone from Explore Port Orchard travels to a meeting, that is not
City business.
city business.
Well, yeah, I mean.
So, I mean, there were a lot
Yeah.
of things in that contract that did not seem to fit for the actual,
For the majority of where the funds are going.
exactly how the funds were being used. Now, that's not to say that the funds that maybe that needs to change. And that's why these groups need to know, because they're not gonna give up their graphic work.
Right.
So maybe they're not going to apply for LTAP funds for any of their design work.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know, so it's really gonna influence how they
And
ask for.
I don't think we want to own, you know, this is what the discussion to be. It's like there's a reason for that clause being in there, but I don't imagine the city really wants to own an election property like that.
No.
Because we can't do anything with it.
Correct, but when you have something like what Sound Publishing is going to do for us, they're gonna do all that graphic work, they're gonna do all that, then that product does belong to the city.
Yes, yeah.
So there, it's two different
And I think that
things.
language can be a little clarified, because I think it's to protect the city from when property is being purchased, you know, for example, like a physical property. So somebody can go in, not that they would, but somebody can go in and actually buy a, I don't know, a piece of land with the property and then return it into LTAC reimbursement funds, because that's this place that they use to hold up their signs to hold their event. Not that this would, but I think that's the type of thing that contract was trying to protect, not the actual sign. So I think it needs to be more clarity. Or if they were to go and purchase a vehicle, because like the float, I mean, if they were to go and purchase the float, you know, is that, it just needs to be more clearer as to what
It
it's
did
the intention to
specifically
be.
say graphic
Graphics, yeah,
designs.
I think you're right.
It did.
We'll just strike it out.
Yeah, well, that's why when Brandy was saying, that she thought it needed to be a contract that the city came up with, I disagree with that. I think that the contract and the language in it needs some sit-down negotiating, and if the city comes up with the language, that's fine, but I think everyone needs buy-in. I don't think it's just we say this is it or the highway.
Yeah. No, it'll be good to have feedback, because this is a change.
Right, right.
You have a perfect opportunity, I guess, a window there, so to speak, to work on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. and-
Exactly. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn until September.
Can I talk to you for a
Yeah.
minute, please?